It is a matter of debate whether my lack of belief in the existence of an omnipresent, omniscient God is due to my arrogant pride and vanity. It never occurred to me that sometime in the future I would be involved in polemics of this kind. As a result of some discussions with my friends, if my claim to friendship is not uncalled for, I have realized that after having known me for a little time only, some of them have reached a kind of hasty conclusion about me that my atheism is my foolishness and that is the outcome of my vanity. Even then, it is a serious problem. I do not boast of being above these human follies. I am, after all, a human being and nothing more, and no one can claim to be more than that. I have a weakness in my personality, for pride is one of the human traits that I do possess. I am known as a dictator among my friends. Sometimes I am called a boaster. Some have always been complaining that I am bossy and I force others to accept my opinion. Yes, it is true to some extent. I do not deny this charge. We can use the word vainglory for it. As far as the contemptible, obsolete, rotten values of our society are concerned, I am an extreme skeptic. But this question does not concern my person alone. It is being proud of my ideas, my thoughts. It cannot be called empty pride. Pride, or you may use the word vanity, both mean an exaggerated assessment of one's personality. Is my atheism because of unnecessary pride? Or have I ceased believing in God after thinking long and deep on the matter? I wish to put my ideas before you. First of all, let us differentiate between pride and vanity, as these are two different things. I have never been able to understand how unfounded, baseless pride or empty vanity can hinder a person from believing in God. I may refuse to acknowledge the greatness of a really great person only when I have got fame without doing any serious efforts or when I lack the superior mental powers necessary to become great. It is easy to understand that how is it possible that a believer can turn into a non-believer because of his vanity. Only two things are possible. Either a man deems himself to be in possession of godly qualities, or he goes a step further and declares himself to be a god. In both these states of mind, he cannot be an atheist in the true sense of the word. In the first case, it is not an outright rejection of God's existence. In the other, he is affirming the existence of some kind of supernatural power responsible for the working of the universe. It does not harm our argument whether he claims to be a god or considers God to be a reality in existence above his own being. The real point, however, is that in both cases he is a theist, a believer. He is not an atheist. I want to bring home this point to you. I'm not one of these two creeds. I totally reject the existence of an omnipresent, all-powerful, all-knowing God. Why so? I will discuss it later in the essay. Here, I wish to emphasize that I am not an atheist for the reason that I am arrogant or proud or vain, nor am I a demigod, nor a prophet, no, nor am I God myself. At least one thing is true, that I have not evolved this thought because of vanity or pride. In order to answer this question, I relate the truth. My friends say that after Delhi bombing and Lahore conspiracy case, I rocketed to fame and that this fact has turned my head. Let us discuss why this allegation is incorrect. I did not give up my belief in God after these incidents. I was an atheist even when I was an unknown figure. At least a college student cannot cherish any sort of exaggerated notion of himself that may lead him to atheism. It is true that I was a favorite with some college teachers, but others did not like me. I was never a hardworking or studious boy. I never got an opportunity to be proud. I was very careful in my behavior and somewhat pessimistic about my future career. I was not completely atheistic in my beliefs. I was brought up under the care and protection of my father. He was a staunch Arya Samaji. An Arya Samaji can be anything, but never an atheist. After my elementary education, I was sent to DAV College, Lahore. I lived in the boarding house for 1 year. Besides prayers early in the morning and at dusk time, I sat for hours and chanted religious mantras. At that time, I was a staunch believer. Then I lived with my father. He was a tolerant man in his religious views. It is due to his teachings that I devoted my life for the cause of liberating my country. But he was not an atheist. His God was an all-pervading entity. He advised me to offer my prayers every day. In this way, I was brought up. In the non-cooperation days, I got admission to the National College. During my stay in this college, I began thinking over all the religious polemics such that I grew skeptical about the existence of God. In spite of this fact, I can say that my belief in God was firm and strong. I grew a beard and a case long. In spite of this, I could not convince myself of the efficacy of Sikh religion or any religion at all for that matter. But I had an unswerving, unwavering belief in God. Then I joined the Revolutionary Party. The first leader I met had not the courage to openly declare himself an atheist. He was unable to reach any conclusion on this point. Whenever I asked him about the existence of God, he gave me this reply: "You may believe in him when you feel like it." The second leader with whom I came in contact was a firm believer. I should mention his name. It was our respected comrade Sachindra Nath Sanyal. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in connection with Karachi conspiracy case. Right from the first page of his only book, Bandi Jeevan, he sings praises to the glory of God. See the last page of the second part of this book, and you find praises showered upon God in the way of a mystic. It is a clear reflection of his thoughts. According to the prosecution, the revolutionary leaflet which was distributed throughout India was the outcome of Sachindra Nath Sanyal's intellectual labor. So often it happens that in revolutionary activities, a leader expresses his own ideas, which may be very dear to him, but in spite of having differences, the other workers have to acquiesce in them. In that leaflet, one full paragraph was devoted to the praises of God and its doings, which we human beings cannot understand. This is sheer mysticism. What I want to point out is that the idea of denying the existence of God did not even occur to the Revolutionary Party. The famous Kakuri martyrs, all four of them, passed their last day in prayers. Ram Prasad Bismil was a staunch Arya Samaji. In spite of his vast studies in socialism and communism, Rajan Lahiri could not suppress his desire to recite hymns from Upanishads and Gita. There was but only one person among them who did not indulge in such activities. He used to say, religion is the outcome of human weakness or the limitation of human knowledge. He is also in prison for life. But he also never dared to deny the existence of God. Till that time, I was only a romantic revolutionary, just a follower of our leaders. Then came the time to shoulder the whole responsibility. For some time, a strong opposition put the very existence of the party into danger. Many leaders as well as many enthusiastic comrades began to uphold the party to ridicule. They jeered at us. I had an apprehension that someday I will also consider it a futile and hopeless task. It was a turning point in my revolutionary career. An incessant desire to study filled my heart, study more and more. Said I to myself so that I might be able to face the arguments of my opponents. Study to support your point of view with convincing arguments, bro. And I began to study in a serious manner. My previous beliefs and convictions underwent a radical change. The romance of militancy dominated our predecessors. Now serious ideas ousted this way of thinking. No more mysticism, no more blind faith. Now realism was our mode of thinking. At times of a terrible necessity, we can resort to extreme methods, but violence produces opposite results in mass movements. I have talked much about our methods. The most important thing was a clear conception of our ideology, for which we were waging a long struggle. As there was no election activity going on, I got ample opportunity to study various ideas propounded by various writers. I studied I studied Bukanin, an anarchist leader. I read a few books of Marx, the father of communism. I also read Lenin and Trotsky and many other writers who successfully carried out revolutions in their countries. All of them were atheists. The ideas contained in Bukanin's God and State seem inconclusive, but it is an interesting book. After that, I came across a book, Common Sense, by Soham Swami. His point of view was a sort of mystical atheism. I developed more interest in this subject. By the end of 1926, I was convinced that the belief in an almighty supreme being who created, guided, and controlled the universe had no sound foundations. I began discussions on this subject with my friends. I had openly declared myself an atheist. What it meant will be discussed in the following lines.